to another meeting later this month. This is about a parcel owned by Lori Ducharme. So we will, Craig's here, good. So we will start the agenda, the meeting with the request from the Lions Club to place temporary signs at the entry to the town common for their cider donut sale at Shartner Farm on the weekends from September 23rd to October 22nd. Craig, over to you.
Yep, the same as last year and the year before that and years before that. I did make a mistake in that I did not have the sign that's usually at the top of West Berlin Road on that list as well. It's essentially the same deal, I think. Pointing people down. Actually, I don't think there's an arrow on that one, but it lets people know the lines are down there. They stayed out. They would be put out in the mornings at 10 o'clock or so, and brought in at the end of the donut shift, which is typically 4 o'clock or a bit earlier, depending on weather and busyness and things.
So they'll only be up for a few hours on Saturdays.
On Saturdays and Sundays, and Saturdays Columbus and Day.
Sundays. Yep. Okay, we don't have a copy of the sign in our packet, but I'm assuming they're the same ones you used last year.
Yep,
I'm very familiar with that.
Yep, I sent a picture of it to Jenny yesterday. I don't know how it didn't get into your packet, but it's the same anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I did send one anyway. It's the same as last year.
Okay.
All right, Stan and Brian, any questions?
No, I'm fine. It's the same stuff as last year. I'm good with it.
Any questions or comments from anybody else? All right, could I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the request from the Lions Club to place temporary signs at the entry to the town common and up at Berlin Road for their cider donut sale at Shartner Farm on the weekends from September 23rd through October 27th, both Saturday and Sundays.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Oh, there we go.
I did get it. Sorry about that, Craig.
Just trying to make us hungry, Jenny.
No, it's fine. Excellent. Roll call, Stan.
Aye.
Ryan.
Aye.
I'm a yes also. Okay, thank you, Craig. Good luck.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks a lot.
Next is a request from Chief Legendre or his designated speaker for ARPA funds in the amount of $57,601.50 to be appropriated to cover cost overruns related to the purchase of a fire truck as voted at the annual town meeting of May 2021, Article 17. Do we have someone from the fire department here?
Chief Legendre is under the weather this evening, but the deputy chief is with us.
Okay. Is that Dana?
Yes. How are you today?
Hi. Welcome to the meeting.
Good to meet you.
Please just at a high level, go over what you're asking for and the reasons for it.
So on May 3rd, we received, exact date was April 26th. We received a letter from Seagrave, the contractor building the new rescue pumper, asking for, I believe the exact figure was $112,447 to basically complete the truck. Their reason was increase in costs of materials and so forth. Through negotiations with the CEO of the company and the fire chief, kind of whittled it down to looks like $90,000 from that 112, with the extra money that was in the warrant article would cover the rest. So the balance would be that $57,601.50.
Okay. Now that covers the construction of the truck. After the construction is complete, it has to be outfitted. Is that right?
Yes. Luckily, we're successful in securing some grant funding for a lot of the equipment. So this would cover the construction and all of the equipment for the truck, but is all inclusive of that.
Okay. Okay. Brian and Stan, any comments or questions?
Well, actually, yes, a couple. The truck, based on Chief Lissandra's letter, the truck was $749,644. And while Seagrave asked for an additional 112,447, you whittle it down to 90,000. If I add the 749,644 and the 90,000, I get $839,644. And in Chief Legendra's letter, the total cost is $840,082. So there seems to be some discrepancy here. I'm not sure where the 57,601 is coming from, because if you add what we originally appropriated it for, or the contract plus the 90,000 you negotiated, that's 839,644. So we appropriated 800,000. So I would think it should be 39,644, not 57,601.
Forgive me, I'm just rereading Chief Legenda's letter. But what I would
Could I ask a clarifying question, Stan? That 700,000 number, could you tell me where you saw that? Because I missed that in the chief's letter, unless it was somewhere else in the packet.
No, it's in his letter. He spells that number out. He doesn't write the numbers down. He spells it out as
Oh, I see. Yeah.
749 in English as opposed to numerics.
Got it.
So on that, I wouldn't be able to kind of go into exactly what that number was. But I do recall that the truck original purchase contract price was in the 740,000, like you said. And with that 112, I do see how your math would work. I don't know if Mr. Lowe could speak a little bit more to that with some of the conversations he had with Seagrave.
Yeah, I was certainly involved in the negotiations with Seagrave. I didn't take notes on the final numbers that we came up with. Well, actually, the final number that was submitted by Seagrave was in a report to the chief, which he did forward on to me. But yeah, I don't know the details behind the chief's calculations. He sent that letter to me for my information, but I didn't go back over the math with him, so I don't know how he landed on that figure. But the figure that we've got on the agenda is the same figure that is totaled in the letter. So I can't account for the discrepancy.
Yeah. I want to be clear. I'm all in favor of paying the extra money, because if we basically tell Seagrave to go pound sand, we're going to wind up starting all over again in a much more expensive truck. I just want to make sure we have the right number. I'm also concerned that Seagrave has missed the delivery of this by 100%. They were supposed to deliver this truck in 400 days, and we're now into year 2, and they still haven't delivered this truck. And for them to come back on April 23rd, 2023 to tell us, oh, you owe us more money, that's not that shouldn't have been our problem. That is Seagrave's problem for not being able to deliver a vehicle. But I understand. I just want to make sure we get the numbers right, because I don't think we are asking for a 57,601. I think it's a different number.
What number did you come up with, Stan?
All right. In Chief Legendra's letter, he said the truck originally was spec'd out and cost $749,644. Seagrave came back with an ad of 112,447, which was negotiated down to 90,000. If I add 90,000 to 749,644, I get 839,644. And somewhere in Chief Legendra's letter, he says the total price of the truck now is $840,882, which is yet another number, but doesn't play into where the 56,601 comes into.
So what is the delta between the total you came up with and the total that's in chiefly, it's what about,
All right,
About-
the total I come up with is 839,644. The total in Chief LeGender's letter is $840,082. But we appropriated 800,000. So
well, some of that 800,000 has already been spent. So we don't have the whole 800,000 still to work with.
well, I don't the truck costs more than 749,644. We ought to know that.
Right, so I think that the delta that we're looking at between your number and the chief's is a little over $400.
It's true, but he's asking for 57,601 for ARPA funds.
Right,
So he should ask for either 39,644 or 40,082. But I don't know where 57,000 comes from.
yeah, and I
There's-
can't,
So let
Go
me
ahead.
just flag one possibility, and well, again, we don't know, but it mentions that there were some change orders after the initial price of 744. So I'm wondering if potentially some of those change orders are what brought the number above 744, which then maybe is the reason why we need more than the roughly $40,000 delta that I think, Stan, I agree with you. It looks like it should be a $39,000 or $40,000 delta. Why are they asking for a $57,000? Maybe there were change orders that bumped it up. I don't know.
If you look at the last sentence in Chief LeGender's letter in our packet, it says the current contract price of the Seagrave with additional requested funds is $840,082.
Yeah,
Okay,
yep.
and we appropriated 800 grand. So where's the 57,601 coming from?
We're not gonna get it settled tonight.
We're not. I agree. I agree. Whatever it is, we need to pay it. I'm fine, but we just need to get the right number.
Yeah, so I guess the next question is, what are the consequences of not deciding tonight and deciding on the 28th?
I can't speak 100% to that. I know that the chief had reached out and talked with Seagrave, and the truck is in production as we speak. It's on the assembly line. I believe final inspection is in January of this year. The exact date to be determined.
January?
January.
It says here it's still on track for delivery in November.
And the last I had heard from the fire chief, and don't hold me to the exact date, was that final inspection in at the factory was going to be in January sometime.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Well,
We're talking almost 800 days. We're talking over 2 years to build a fire truck.
And Dana, it's not your fault.
No,
You
no,
just
it's
just happen to be the lightning
absolutely, it's not your
rod
fault.
tonight,
Not your
that's
fault.
all.
No, it's
No,
Seagrave's fault. It's not.
I am just as frustrated as anybody else. I know industry-wide, this is happening. The length of production of these vehicles has normally always been 270 to 365 days, and now 800 days is on the high end of all of this, but it's not unreasonable. But it's frustrating because, like the contract said, if it was done in 400 days, the price of materials probably wouldn't have been that much more expensive. But unfortunately, like we've said, we're kind of over the barrel on this.
what I would suggest to make sure that we can keep things moving is that you vote to approve the requested figure that Chief Legender gave, the 57,601.50 tonight, and it can always be adjusted downward at the next meeting, but that way we're not holding anything up.
Well, his final number is 840,82. So I'm more inclined to approve $40,082.
Okay,
Yeah, that this is, yeah, I'm inclined to do that.
All right, because that's pretty close to the number you came up with, right, Stan?
Yes, I came up with 839, 644, and he came up with 840, 082.
Okay,
Again, where the 57,000 is coming from, I don't understand.
okay,
I don't think it'll be too detrimental to this either which way if the chief is able to kind of explain a little bit better than I can exactly where that number, if that number really truly is 57,000. I know generally speaking, I think what we're looking for here is the overall approval saying, hey, yes, the town of Bolton will pay the additional funds. Generally speaking, the truck check isn't due until delivery anyways. So it's not like we have to give them, I don't believe we have to give them that extra money now.
no, we don't.
so I think if we approve the 40,000, we would at least be able to tell what is it, Seagrave Company, that we're working in good faith. At the same time, I'd like to know what the other select board members think about asking the town administrator to investigate our legal opportunities to claw back some of that money from the company.
I would agree with that. And I would also go further. We at the last annual town meeting approved the fire department to purchase yet another vehicle. And I'd like to understand who we're potentially contracting with and what we can put in that contract to avoid what we have here. The town of Bolton should not be taken on the chin for problems with some other companies' delivery problems. They said 400 days, it should be 400 days. If they settled on a price, that's the price that they should be obligated to provide us. Not a year into the production schedule where we still don't have a truck, more than a year, and now, oh, you owe us more money.
Okay, Brian?
I agree with all that.
Okay, so we're gonna need two motions, and I think they should be separate. One is for the $40,082, and the second is something to direct the town administrator to contact the legal counsel and see what we can do about clawing back some of that money.
Well, I'd like, well, the first one is, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Chief of the Genre's request for additional funds requested by Seagrave to pay for the fire truck that's on order. And agree that based upon his letter, that negotiation with Seagrave continued and settled on an increase of $90,000 for the fire truck. And based upon a agreed upon purchase price of $749,644, that adding that 90,000 increase, that at this point in time, we're okay with a purchase price of $839,644. And if there's any additional discrepancy, the board will reconvene and consider such discrepancies and make a ruling then. But in general, we support the purchase of the truck with the increase in the price.
Don, does that motion release the ARPA funds or?
No, it doesn't. Because you didn't say the exact amount and you didn't say that it would come from ARPA funds. So
All
as
right,
part of
well,
that-
then I will amend that motion that $39,644 be released from ARPA funds.
For the purpose of the fire.
Contingent upon understanding why the chief has requested $57,601.50.
39,644, you said?
39,644.
Okay,
And contingent upon getting an explanation as to why the chief has requested $57,601.50.
Second,
Okay, roll call, Brian,
yes.
Stan,
Aye.
I'm a yes also. And I think now we need one to direct the town administrator.
I'll make a motion that we direct the town administrator to work with the chief and Seagrave to understand,
And town council.
and town council, as to why there was such a lengthy period of time when we expected a truck delivered in 400 days, that after the 400-day mark, considerably after the 400-day mark, that we got a request for an additional 112,447 for a truck that we agreed upon a price back in 2022. And what remedies we might have to address that.
I'd be happier with a simpler motion.
Okay. Well, then you take a crack at it.
How about this? Oh,
My
go ahead.
understanding is that you'd like me to speak with town council to see what, if any, recourse we have in clawing back some or all of the money, that the additional money being appropriated.
There you go. I'll second that one.
All right, so I'll make the motion. So moved per the town administrator's suggestion.
Second,
Okay, roll call, Brian,
yes.
Stan,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. All right,
Thank you, good gentlemen.
thank
Thanks,
you very
David.
much.
I appreciate
Sorry
it.
to put you in the hot seat like this.
No
No,
worries.
it's not you. It's not you. It's not you.
Well, I appreciate it. I understand. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right,
You're
thank you. Next up is some updates from the town administrator on the special town meeting preparations for Monday, September 18th.
There's been considerable ongoing testing of the clickers. Jenny and Jen Marquis and our IT support from CM Geeks and others have been working quite a bit down at the location to make sure that everything's good to go. And Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the last test that you guys did earlier this week, I think it was, we had all 1,000 clickers working the way that we expect them to, correct?
Well, we didn't actually test each of the 1,000, but yes.
Well, no, I get that, yes.
The system is working very exceptionally well, so we're pleased.
And so that we're feeling as confident as we can feel that things are going to go well. We have no reason to think they won't. The 400 chairs that were ordered will be delivered tomorrow. They'll be set up tomorrow by some of the National Honor Society students as part of their community service work. We're ready for Monday night. You know, we're assuming we may get around probably 800 or so people, but you don't know. So which is why we have the 1,000 clickers. We'll be all set up. I would say that certainly I would encourage people, if we're going to have a 7 o'clock start, to start showing up at 6, because it could be a lengthy check-in if people all get there at the same time. We have only so many people to help check people in. So anyway, I'm sure the town moderator will start as close to 7 as he feels is appropriate. But it's basically a 1-article meeting, so I don't think the unpaid bills are going to take more than 30 seconds, and then the rest of it is the school. So, but we're excited, and we'll all be very relieved once we've successfully completed the meeting.
Okay, very good. Any comments or questions?
Nope.
Okay,
I will say the folks that have been working on this, and I have not been involved, the folks that have been working on this started working on this probably back in June. The plan for this has been a long time coming, and
good,
they've done a great job.
excellent. You want to just continue with go into your town administrator report?
I would be delighted. I want to introduce to the board 2 new staff members. The one who can't be present tonight, I will introduce first. The person who we hired for the newly created position of administrative assistant to the town planner and conservation agent is Lauren Duquette. Lauren started actually the same day that the town planner did, which was the day after Labor Day. And she's really hit the ground running and is clearly a great addition to the team. We're very excited to have Lauren with us. And our new town planner, Pam Harding, who is with us, I can see her. As I said, started the same day. I think we created the false impression that we have special food every day because we had a brunch the first day just to welcome everybody. But Pam really has, she's been extremely helpful already. She's, aside from the town planner function, she is in the past was also a conservation agent. So she's been helping the acting conservation agent quite a bit, which he deeply appreciates. And I've told her so almost daily. So I would just like Pam to introduce herself and to say a few words to the board.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. As Don said, I started on September 5th. Happy and excited to be in Bolton. Don took me on a tour around the town today. It's a beautiful municipality. I'm really happy and excited to be here. We're already working on a lot of projects. And I come to Bolton with 26 years of planning experience. So I'm happy to be here and hope I can help out and continue the town to move forward and keep the beautiful character that it has.
Well, thank you. We're very glad to have you working with us, and we look forward to meeting you in person and seeing you at a lot of these meetings.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm looking forward to it. It's a little odd on Zoom meeting people for the first times.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Pam, and I'll stop in early next weekend.
Oh, great. I'll look forward to that. Thank you. Well, I'm here, and if you have any questions or need any help with anything, please reach out. And I look forward to working with everyone.
All right. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And that is all I have for the town administrator report for tonight, unless any of you have any questions for me.
No.
Nope.
Okay, on to select board business. Are there any public service announcements?
Not tonight for me.
No, okay. Any future agenda items for discussion?
Yes, Bob. I would like to have a future agenda item to discuss. As you well know, U.S. News and World Report does an annual survey ranking of all types of schools in the U.S. And they do so for high schools, and they've done that for quite a number of years. I'd like to have a discussion at a future meeting, perhaps the next one. Their rankings for high schools in Massachusetts just came out. Unfortunately, Neshoba has dipped a bit in its ranking relative to other schools from what I could find from 2020. And I think we need to have a bit of a discussion and perhaps ask for a vote to request some information from the district and the school committee as to why that is and how they're going to potentially rectify it. So that's an item I'd like to discuss at a future meeting.
We can put that on the agenda for discussion. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Brian, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Next, we have some appointments to the Bolton Cultural Council. Are these renewals of existing appointments, or are these new appointments?
Two appointments.
These are new appointments. Each of the members of the Cultural Council can only serve a certain number of years before they have to take a mandatory year off. Don, I don't recall if it's 7 years. It's either 3 or 7 years. So there's a lot of vacancies coming up. And so we did some advertising, got a lot of great names in, and Chris Sterling interviewed them. And these are the names of the volunteers that they would like to bring forward.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments about the list as presented in our select board packet? I'll just briefly go over the names. Marilyn Gear Rivera, Margaret Campbell, Wendy Eldridge, Beth Freidinger, Lynn Slade, and Holly Lauer.
Can I just ask, if Chris Sterling is the one that's interviewing, I would assume these and perhaps more, how is it that Chris Sterling decides who gets to get on this list?
Well, they can have up to 22 members on this committee. So I think people that are looking to serve, as long as they are there for the with the right intentions, I think we're happy to have them.
Right,
Oh.
I think the people, these are the people who stepped up to offer to help. I don't think anyone was excluded.
Okay, so there were no more than 5?
I don't believe so.
Okay, then I'm fine with that.
Well, 6, but okay.
6.
All right, could I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the list of the folks in our agenda packet for the Bolton Cultural Council.
Second,
All right, roll call. Stan,
All right,
Brian,
aye.
I'm a yes also.
okay.
Okay, next is a discussion of all-in costs for the proposed new high school. This is a request by Stan Wysocki.
Yeah, thank you very much. Jenny, can I be able to share my screen?
Yes, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so let's see, which one do I want to share? It's this one. Okay. So the reason I asked for this, oops, hold on. Here we go. All right, the reason I asked for this to be, Rob, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep. This is taken from Kirk Downing's presentation. He's done it a number of times in terms of the total project costs and MSBA reimbursement, total taxpayer contribution, and the estimated totals per town. He presented this a number of times. He presented this particular slide to the select board a couple of weeks ago, where it shows that the total project cost is 241 million and change. Total taxpayer contribution, which he has also indicated is the total cost for the project, including the interest, which is not necessarily correct, and then the breakdown based upon the $176 million in change for each of the 3 towns. So that's what he's been showing to the towns. That's what he's been showing.
Excuse me for interrupting, Stan, but you dropped out for half a syllable. What was it you said about the interest?
This is the cost of the project if we had $176 million in change laying around and we could pay for it without borrowing any money.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
As you well know, we have to incur bonds in order to pay for this over the 30 years.
Okay, yeah, I understand now. Okay.
So what I'm going to show, and I hopefully will be able to see, do you see my spreadsheet that I have up?
No, it's all black.
It's all black. Well, let's see if we can get this, because new share. Let's try that one. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
I see a spreadsheet, yes.
Great. So the amount of money that, exclusive of the 64,793,451, which represents, based upon the 241 million, of 26.81%, that the state was willing to be kicking in, That's what Kurt has been presenting, or the district has been presenting as the total cost of the project. The district has been advertising something between 4 and 4.5% in terms of the interest rate of the bonds that are going to be necessary to fund this. In doing some calculations, and I was using a loan calculator with an amortization schedule, the actual total cost of the project, if we look at going the halfway point between 4 and 4.5%, we'll do 4.25%, which is line 8 here. The total project cost is actually $313,325,033. Of that, the interest is $136,403,558 over and above the 176. So what we're looking at as a cost to the three towns is not $176,921.45. But if we assume a 4.25% interest rate on the total borrowing, and I'll get into why there may be some differences here, we're actually looking at a total cost of the three towns of $313,325,033. Now for Bolton, going over here, Bolton's estimate was in the $56 million range. But if you look at the assumption that the district used, that Bolton would be assuming 31.87% of the cost of the school, our cost, total cost, principal plus interest, is actually just shy of $100 million. So the cost to the town of Bolton for this project, based upon borrowing $176 million and change at 4.25%, is roughly just shy of $100 million, not the 50.
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years. Over 30 years. And that actually, if you look at that, they had an estimate of about $1,750 per person or per household. And the number pretty much comes up pretty close to that.
Now, how is this different than a regular home mortgage?
It's no different than a regular home mortgage.
So if someone were to get a home loan for $170 or $56,000 or $560,000, they'd be paying proportionally the same amount. They'd be paying, $1 million or $10 million or $1 million in their would be the real total cost of it.
Well, yes.
Okay.
But the thing is, what I wanted to show is that the district has been saying that the total borrowing cost is $176,921,000.
No, the
It's not.
district has not been saying that.
Oh,
The
yeah.
district has been saying the total amount to be spent provided by the cities and towns is 176. They have not said that that's the total payments.
No, Kurt Downing, I'll be happy to get to the next meeting. In a presentation he made, the borrowing costs to the towns was 176,921, which is not accurate. The borrowing cost to the towns is 313 million at a minimum, because one of the strategies is to borrow 75 million up front and then borrow 100 or so million 2 years down the road. But in talking with Kristen Noel, who's on the bonding committee, most likely the interest rate for the second 100 million will be a little bit higher than 4.25 or 4.5%. So what we're looking at here is probably a minimum number relative to the total cost. All this is doing is presenting what the total cost of the town of Bolton will be. Obviously, Lancaster and Stowe need to do their own calculations based upon the percentages that the district has come up with, but this is what is projected for the town of Bolton.
Okay. Now, to take this back to the way we run the town, can you tell me what the total cost, the total real cost of that fire truck is?
Gonna be a lot more than the 749 or $800,000.
I know,
Absolutely.
but I don't know why you're not bringing that to everybody's attention. Because you are responsible for that portion, for that decision.
And so are you. Why haven't
Yes.
you done that? We're talking about 800,000 versus 176 million.
I was trying to go back.
If you like, Bob, we can do a calculation and tell the folks what it's going to cost for the fire truck. We
Well,
can
I
tell the
don't
cost of
know why
everything.
you're applying one standard to one project where you have no control over it, but where you have control over a project, you're not doing the same analysis.
Because the district has said the borrowing cost for this project is 176 million, and it's not. It's a lot higher.
Stan, I have been into every school building committee meeting. I've attended many of the forums. I have never heard anybody say that the 176,921 includes interest. No one has ever said that. No one has suggested it.
Well, I think we should let the folks know, and let's do the fire truck next. And
Okay,
we're all remiss, just so don't point it to me, Bob, that we're remiss. You're in the same boat that I am.
I am, but I'm not the one who's insisting that this is a different standard that we should now.
I'm not saying it's a different standard.
We haven't done this before, Stan. Not for anything in town.
The order of magnitude of this, Bob, is tremendous.
As it is with a home mortgage. I understand that.
So what's wrong in letting people know? So we have now started a great new tradition in town to let people know exactly what the costs are. So
Okay.
what's the problem with that, Bob?
Nothing,
Okay.
nothing.
Okay. If you thought this was not, why didn't you talk about the fire truck tonight? You could have brought it up.
Stan, we've always gone and presented the actual purchase price, which is just what the school has done. What the school district has done is completely in line with the way this town has conducted all of its purchase and borrowing decisions in the past few years. Or since I've been in town anyway. And so I don't have an issue with
Are you
with
saying,
doing it
Bob, that we shouldn't be doing this?
No, I just don't know why you
Are you
picked
saying
this
that
time
this is
to
wrong?
start it.
Are you saying that this is wrong?
It's highly speculative, and I don't know where those numbers came from.
So let me just jump in with a quick clarifying question, and then I may have a comment too. But I was trying to look as you were talking, Stan, and I'm sorry I couldn't pull it up, but the column L where it has the per year, that's basically the per year impact on the taxpayer, right? On average, based on an average single family home price.
Correct. Well, what that is there is assuming 1,900 residents a year, just dividing that equally. Obviously, some people will pay less, some people will pay more.
Right.
Okay, but based upon that pile of money, that number of residents, and I checked with Kristen, and 1,900 was a good number to use. That's roughly the average tax impact per year for that amount of money. And of course, your number will vary depending upon your assessed value of your home.
Yeah. But that number, that 1752, if I'm remembering, that is it or is it not within the ballpark of the number that the district was using in its presentation when it was also trying to estimate the household impact per year? I was just trying to find it, Stan.
Yes, that is correct. That is exactly roughly the same number. I'm not sure where they got the 1550 number, but if you divide the total estimate based upon that over 30 years, that's the number you get per resident.
Yeah.
Which is in line with what the district was projecting at the high end.
Okay. So it sounds like basically, I'm just trying to assume good faith on everybody's part. It sounds like what happened was they were trying to present sort of the purchase price, which seems like is the convention that has been used for most capital projects that the town does on its own. I don't know. I wasn't here when the library or the public safety building was approved, but I'm guessing that was also like an all-in purchase price listed in the warrant article, but not necessarily the additional number that showed the total cost of borrowing over the lifetime of the project. So I think, I mean, basically, I think you're pointing to the fact that the one snapshot of information, which is the purchase price, doesn't actually fully inform people about the all-in cost.
Correct.
Most people probably have a sense of that if they've borrowed on their home, but they did show a per household impact that was roughly in line with the all-in cost, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I mean, I don't think that there's any harm in kind of adding that additional educational piece. I just want to be clear, and I don't think you were suggesting this, but I don't think that they were trying to play fast and loose with what they were calling the price. And I also don't ever remember them saying this is the price inclusive of borrowing costs. I don't remember them saying that. So anyway, I guess I'm trying to just split the baby here.
Yeah, no, I think that we should, I mean, we're talking about a huge sum of money.
Yeah.
And
which the school district is accurately representing in its per year average cost.
correct. But you know, it's like I'm going to show you some numbers, but I'm not going to show you everything. All we're doing is showing this. The other thing also is that there was a Bolton resident in the last edition of the Bolton Independent who claimed that, oh, if we fund this project, the state's going to be paying a significant portion of the cost of the school, which is not correct. You know, at best, it's 26.81 if you base it upon the 241 million, but if you base it upon the total cost of what the taxpayers are going to have to pay, it's a lot less. It's like 17.
Well, let me add that if you're going to make that comparison, you should calculate how much that 64 million saves the taxpayers over the same 30 years.
Happy to do that.
Okay.
Happy to do that. But actually, it doesn't save the taxpayers a whole lot because you're basing it upon a cost of 176 million. So if you want to say if we had to fund the whole thing, sure.
Okay.
Okay. And if you thought that was prudent, you should have done that, Bob.
Stan, I haven't seen this before.
Okay. Well, all I'm saying is that, you know, based upon all of this, the state is contributing about 17%. So you could probably figure that the costs would be 17% higher if the state didn't contribute anything. All I'm trying to show, Bob, is what the actual true costs are. I'm not faulting anybody. I'm not being derogatory to anybody, but I think if we're going to show the numbers, we need to show all the numbers. And I think we need to show exactly what the town of Bolton is on the hook for, which has not been shown until now.
All right. Again,
Okay.
I don't know where the numbers came from, but we agree that the school district accurately represented the effect of this on the tax rate.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Nope. Okay.
This one,
So you also wanted to go on to have a discussion to make a request to the school committee or district management for the operational costs for the proposed new high school.
yeah, I think one of the things that we have not gotten is what are going to be the operational costs for the new high school? And I think that Skanska, who has been involved in, my understanding, 13 high school and regional high schools in the state of Massachusetts, should be able to get information for us on of the buildings that they constructed and the buildings that were replaced, what the operating costs for those schools were before the new building, and what the operating costs were or would have been or are for the new. And if they're higher, that's great. If they're lower, that's great. But I have no set. I don't think anybody has a sense of what the operating costs are, because that's just going to be an additional, potentially additional, or a decrease in whatever assessments the three towns get.
Okay. So I go back to the fire truck. We don't have that for the new fire truck either. You didn't seem to think it was important to ask those questions about the new fire truck, and we appropriated more money for it tonight.
We didn't know about the discussion of the fire truck until today. This was something that I requested last meeting. So okay, fine. Then let's do that. But my question still stands. You seem to be hell-bent on wanting to get this new school built at whatever cost possible, and you want to dissuade any discussion to the negative about this new school.
No, I'm for discussion on it.
Okay, then let's have the discussion.
All of a sudden, there's a new standard that despite you being in town government for close to 20 years, only gets applied a week before the vote on the school.
I've asked for this information for some time now, and I have not gotten it from the district. So that's why I put it on the agenda.
So companies like Skanska,
and you being part of the school committee, why haven't you asked for that information?
because
you as part of the
let me answer your question. Let me answer your question. Let me answer your question.
How do you know that?
Let me answer your question. Skanska is the owner's project manager. Their contact with the school district ends at project closeout. They do not go beyond a year. In most cases, they don't even go as much as a year after the school becomes operating. So they do not collect that information. There are private companies that you can engage to do that, but we don't have any kind of relationship with them. So Skanska does not have that information. And the second thing is, your question should be, what are the costs of the new school compared to what the operating costs of the old school would be in 2028 or whenever it goes live? And Stan, we can't sit here today and tell anyone how much the town is going to be spending on its costs in 2028. So I don't know why we would expect the school district to be able to project how much the high school is going to cost to operate in 2028, much less how much the new school is going to cost to operate in 2028, because it's the delta in operating costs between the current school and the new school that's the important number.
That's correct. And Skanska has built 13 schools in the state of Massachusetts. So of those 13 schools, they knew what the operating costs were when those schools were operating before the new schools got up and running.
No, you have no reason to make that assertion.
They knew what the operating costs with those schools were before they implemented the new schools. And then they have a cost for what the new operating costs for the new schools are. don't tell me, Bob, that they don't know that. And they should know, at least for a percentage, what the difference is, plus
They
or
don't.
minus.
They don't, because different schools, some school districts internalize the operation of a new school, others subcontract portions of it out. And there's no pattern to it. So they don't know which direction the school district is going to take a couple years from now.
I have a question. Again, I wasn't here when the Minuteman approval took place, but does anybody know whether Minuteman was able to provide this kind of an estimate before the building project was approved, an estimate of after the fact operational costs?
Not to my recollection.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, because I understand, I actually understand why Stan, you're curious about this, and I am too. But I also don't know what the expense involved in actually trying to do the apples to apples comparison that Bob brought up, because I think that is the comparison. You have to project out, if we did nothing with our current facility, what would the cost be in 2028 versus the new facility? That seems like a potentially costly analysis to undertake, and I just don't know whether that's typically done.
No, I'm not asking what the analysis of what our school would be in 2028 versus the new school. You have 13 schools that company has built in Massachusetts. They should know, should be able to get from those 13 schools, the last year that those schools were in operation, what the operational cost of that building was for the last year that building was in operation. Okay? And you get the, excuse me, Bob, I'm talking. Let me finish, please. Then you have the new school that comes online. And then the school operates for a year, first year, and you get the operational costs for what that new school was. Same district, new school versus old. And you look at the percentage difference, either higher or lower. And you look at a trend over those 13 schools to get some semblance of old school versus new. Not our school in 2028, but those other schools when the last year was in operation versus the new school in its first year of operation. And what the costs are. And you look at a percentage of the delta of the percentages.
Okay.
And maybe it's less, maybe it's more. But I think it's beneficial to have some sense of that, because that's going to be potentially added on to our assessments. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for a detailed analysis of what our school is going to be in 2028 versus whatever. I'm looking for some simple, what the old school was at the last year versus the new school in the first year. And Skanska did 13 of them in this state so far. Somebody, whether it's them or whether it's the district, should be able to get that information.
Nobody collects that information. Nobody collects that information across school projects. Maybe, not even the MSBA does that, because they post it if they had that. They don't have that. They have construction costs. They do not track operating costs.
Well, then we are at a loss. This is, in my view, shameful that we don't have this. We're not able to get this information, not to know what additional costs we're going to be incurring for a new school, or maybe we'll save money, which will be great, but we don't know one way or the other.
Stan, looking at the agenda item, sounded like was it discussion and possible vote on making a request, or just discussion on making a request to the school committee for operational costs?
Well, it doesn't sound like Mr. Stakansky is interested in getting that information or trying to find out. I think
Um,
Mr. Sikansky is more interested in finding out about the cost and everything else about the fire truck, so.
Well, I think I have no idea whether this is information that is collected in the course. I don't know whether MSBA would have it. I don't know whether Skanska may have the sort of relatively simple snapshot that you're saying. So I don't really see a harm in asking whether it's possible to provide that. But if they have reasons why it's either not collected or it's not possible to provide, I think
Right.
we can know what that, we can hear.
Exactly. If there's some way to get that, I think it's great. If they come back with something plausible that says that's not possible, then we'll have to live with that. Because certainly I'm not an expert in that, and I don't think any of us are.
We need a motion.
All right, make a motion that we request of the school committee and or the Neshoba Regional School District to see if they can get information on historical information on what did you call them, Skanska, the project manager, the OPM, what is Skanska's
They
official?
are the OPM, Owner's Project Manager.
Whether we can get information from the OPM on the schools, the high schools and the regional high schools that they have built in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, what the operating costs were for the school that was originally there during its last year, and what the operating cost for the replacement high school was for the first year of its operation. To understand just relative percentages, plus or minus, of what the operating costs were for those 13 institutions.
I will second that.
Okay, roll call. Brian,
Yes.
Stan?
Yes.
I believe the information does not exist, and so I'm going to vote no on this.
Just to be clear, obviously it'll be me who's following up on that. So it is an email from me to the superintendent on behalf of the select board sufficient, or are you looking for more than that?
I think that I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And if I could just say one thing, so my feeling about the vote on Monday, at least speaking just for myself, is not contingent upon getting this information, but I do think it would be helpful for us to have as part of our long-term planning, if it exists, if it's a relatively easy thing for them to provide. I think it would be good for the district and us to have as part of our long-term planning.
I would agree.
Are you all set, Don?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this, Stan or Brian?
Nope.
No, okay. Next up is continue the discussion of and possible vote to request from the school committee the annual reports, detailed financial statements, and any additional information requested by the select board to support same as outlined in Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16K for the current fiscal 24 year and for the 5 previous fiscal years. This is led by Stan Wysocki.
Yes, this is a continuation of a discussion that we had last meeting. And actually, this actually came about, Mr. Boyle brought this to my attention back in 2022. That in Chapter 71, Section 16, Section K, that the school committee seems to be required to submit an annual report to each of the member towns based upon what they did relative to the review of the budget, the school budget for each year. And we had some discussion of this last week. The annual report, I'm going to read it right now, to submit an annual report to each of the member towns containing a detailed financial statement and a statement showing the method by which the annual charges assessed against each town were computed. together with such additional information, which is what we left it with last week, related to the operational and maintenance of such school or schools as may deem necessary by the district school committee or by the selectmen of the town. So there seems to be an annual financial statement that the school committee needs to provide to each member town of a regional school committee. The way we left it, I believe last week, was, is there anything additional that either you gentlemen would like to see from the school committee in terms of what they've done to review and scrub the budget that's being provided by the district to go through their annual budget review starting in January? And I suggest that the two things that I'd like to see are there are quarterly reports apparently that the district needs to provide to the school committee, very similar to the monthly ledgers that we receive from our town accountant, which show the expenditures in each line item for each cost center of our budget. It's similar to their budget. And the other thing that I would like to see is a list of what transfers were made from one cost center to another over the course of the fiscal year. We left it was that you gentlemen were going to look whatever you might want to see additional to that. Is anything in particular? And I'd like to that we make that request of the school committee.
So I will say a few things. In general, I am uneasy about going about our relationship with the school committee in this particular manner, because I think it will come across as unnecessarily antagonistic. I think there is probably a better way for us to get at this type of information. And what I have in mind is, you know, last year, and I know this is a different situation because I was sitting on the finance committee, but last year I attended most of the budget and warrant subcommittee meetings that the school committee had. And I can tell you that they are receptive at those meetings. They are receptive to having questions asked about, well, can you review this, that, the other thing? Now, I'm not saying that they're always going to review or provide what is asked for, but they are receptive. And it seems to me that that may be the appropriate venue for these types of requests to be made once they're starting their review. You cut out a little bit, Stan, but I think what you said was you were interested in seeing basically kind of like the monthly ledger and then transfers that happen throughout the course of the year. I believe that something like a monthly ledger is provided to the budget and warrant subcommittee. I don't think that they necessarily share it on the screen at every meeting, but I'm just not sure why we have to be creating like a second channel for all of this information when there's already the budget and warrant subcommittee channel that exists. So I just have to say I'm not thrilled with approaching it in this way. And so I would prefer to make our requests by showing up in person to their budget and warrant subcommittee meetings instead of having us sit here and issue requests.
Well, Brian, as you all know, you attended the previous year, and you and I both attended most of the current year for the warrant subcommittee. The chairman, the chairman of that committee, in a meeting with the select board of this town, said that they would be scrubbing the budget. There is no evidence that that was done. There's no evidence that they reviewed anything. There's no evidence that they went through and looked in detail to the same that we do. And I believe here, Brian, this board took a vote and requested that the school committee review the school to the same level and as the town of Bolton does its budget. And I think it's fair to say that they don't do that. And I'm not asking anything more than what Mass General Law says that the school committee is supposed to provide. Mass General Law says that the school committee needs to submit an annual report to each of the member towns containing a detailed financial statement and a statement showing the method by which the annual charges assessed against each town were computed, together with such information, additional information related to the operation and maintenance of the school or schools as may deem necessary by the district school committee or by the selectmen of any member town. We have never gotten any type of annual report or financial statement.
So
I'm only asking that we get something from the school committee that says that they've done something to review the budget. And I don't think we're asking a lot. We haven't gotten anything, Brian.
well, let's divide this in two pieces. The part of the statute that talks about an annual report that includes detailed financial statements, I think we could ask them the question, what in your view has been satisfying that obligation? I think they're probably going to say it's the budget book that we provide, because that does contain detailed financial statements and it does contain a computation of the method by which each of the member towns are assessed their portion. So we could ask them that question, like, what do you think satisfies that obligation? I think they're going to come back and say, we do our budget book, which is, quite detailed. The second piece of what you're raising is the such additional information as may be determined by, the select board or the school committee. And it's that piece that I think it's better, instead of like issuing requests for certain things as a select board just sitting here, I think we should, or one of us or whoever should go to the Budget and Warrant subcommittee and ask the questions there and then, because it just feels,
We don't have subpoena power.
yeah, that's a good analogy.
Well, I don't think it's not for us to ask the school committee of this. It's the school committee not asking the district of this. The warrant, the annual budget book is not developed by the school committee. It's developed by the district.
And our review of that information isn't going to change that.
I'm not asking, it's not our review. It's the review and asking questions by the school committee of the district of that budget, just like we do for all of our department heads in the town of Bolton.
Okay, but requesting this information, how is that going to change the school committee's behavior? Because I looked online, they produce, the school district has its audited financial reports going back several years, balance sheet and income statements, and they've got the budget books, as Brian referred to, for several years going back. And I'm certainly not going to request them that they hand it to us in a special package, stuff that they've posted online. So I'm not sure how asking them for more information is going to change the behavior of the school committee. Because that's what your goal is.
Well, then Bob, if I'm approaching it the wrong way, then why don't you suggest, if you have a better suggestion on how to get the school committee to
Dan, have
delve.
you ever gone to a school committee meeting and asked for this information? Or
They-
have you
they-
ever gone to the school committee meeting and spoken to the committee as, you know, a citizen about your frustration at
Yes,
this information?
yes, many times over many years. And as you well know, the school committee doesn't allow for the kind of discussion that we allow at our meetings.
They have a citizen comment period at the start of every meeting. We don't have
Oh,
that.
yes, they do. They allow people to they read emails and stuff. All right, let me ask you, Bob. Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied with what the school committee is doing relative to reviewing the district budget and
No.
making
No,
sure?
and I don't think that us taking over that responsibility is going, I think us taking over that responsibility lets them off the hook.
I'm not saying we should take over the responsibility. I am not suggesting that we take over the responsibility of that.
Well, then I don't understand why you're asking for what you're asking for.
I'm attempting to get something started where we try to make them more accountable to the 3 towns. And it seems like you don't really care whether or not they are or not, Bob. The same thing
No.
is you don't really seem to care whether or not we tell the people that it's going to cost, another $127 million for the school when the district told us, oh, it's 176. They've been very truthful about that. I really don't understand where you're coming from, Bob. I really don't.
Okay. I think in terms of school district, we should not be taking over the responsibility of the school committee.
I'm not saying we should.
Okay. Then I don't see how what you're requesting is going to hold their feet to the fire.
Then suggest something alternative, Bob. Please do. I am trying.
I'm now I'm in Brian's camp, which is doing the wrong thing is going to be worse than not doing anything at all.
Let me just say that when we think about who school committee members are, it's really good to remember that these are our fellow residents, these are volunteers, and in my experience, they're people that are really acting in good faith to do the best job that they can do. And I will say it's a big job. It is a very, very big job to be on the school committee. I don't think everybody that's on the school committee necessarily gets on the school committee because they have a natural passion for finance, although some of them might. So it's something that they have to learn on the job. And I think to Bob's point about, behavior change or behavior modification, I think we all agree that the school committee in general could adopt practices that are more similar to the way that the towns scrutinize their own budgets. But if we want to kind of have that conversation and move in that direction, I think it needs to be more collaborative instead of something that is going to feel like accusatory, right? It's going to feel like we're saying you're not doing your job. And I just don't think that's a good way to build the relationship with our school committee members. And also they may have, for certain areas, they may have good answers to questions of why they don't get into the weeds on certain things. So just for example, I'm sure that there are areas in their budget where the school committee relies on the administration to get into the weeds because student privacy is at issue. So there may be areas in their budget like that, and there's things that we can learn as when we have that conversation. So I think we can move toward, increasing the rigor of the review without making it seem like we are telling them how to do their jobs or saying that they're not doing a good job. It's more like everybody can improve what they're doing, but I really think we should remember that the relationship is really important and we should focus on having a collaborative one. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, you make good sense. I mean, I think what I think we have been asking for some time, and this conversation has gone on for a number of years, is asking for more information and asking for why certain aspects of the budget are the way they are. So we used to have Tri-Town, and we don't have that anymore. So if there are other ways that you want to approach this, that's fine. I want to get the conversation started because I'm very frustrated in the fact that we get no information. And I think we have tried multiple avenues over multiple years to get information, to better understand. And it's just not happening. At least from my perspective, it's not happening. And talking to some of the residents in this town, it's not happening for them either.
And I don't disagree with what you just said. Right? And I've done this myself, as you have. You explain to them how we do our budget process, what kind of review we give them, and we make other suggestions of things they could do. And the interesting thing is they never come back to us and say, well, your process won't work because of this, or that idea is not appropriate because of that, or our way is better because of this other thing. They don't listen to anything we say.
That is a very true statement.
And so I don't see why we should go pound sand once again, just in hopes that it's going to change things. If there were something concrete that could reveal more information, or there was clearly they're not aware. Most school committee members are not aware of the history of the school committee, the financial history. They're unaware of what happened in the early 2000s. They're unaware that basically the state agency was put in charge of managing the finances of the school for over 10 years. They're unaware of the things that happened in 2014 to 2016. Okay, and so they don't see a problem because they're unaware of all that history. And I'm just in the camp that says doing the same thing over and over again is not the intent. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is not the smart way to approach this. I wish I had a better solution, but I don't. But at the same point, I don't want to make a bad situation worse. So
one possible way of approaching this, and I kind of mentioned this last time, is I would be happy to be our liaison to the school committee's budget and warrant subcommittee on the topic of budget stuff. You can vent your frustrations with me and I can take it to them. But I just think that that's probably a better way of going about it. And it also allows for a bit of more like in the moment conversation with the members of the budget and warrant subcommittee that then I can bring back to you and say, this is what I learned and this is why they can't provide X or why they're working to provide Y. But I would be happy to do that. So I know that because of open meeting law, we still need to continue to kind of get updates in these meetings. But I don't know what you gentlemen think of that.
You brought that up at the last meeting, and I've had some time to think about it. My immediate reaction to that is to designate someone to be a liaison means that the other party has to recognize the liaison relationship, which we don't have. So I would certainly feel comfortable authorizing you on behalf of the selectmen to reach out to the superintendent or the budget subcommittee or whoever, and as many people as you wish, to jointly come up with some better means of communication and exchanging financial information without just saying, oh, you're the liaison and who, but we're the only ones who want to have a liaison relationship.
Bob, I agree with you. And to your earlier statement is that we have tried for a number of years trying to communicate what we potentially would like to see or what we think would be helpful for us or what our potential requirements are. And there's no response, and potentially they don't think it's important. I don't know. But obviously, to your point also, we've not gotten through. And where we were several years ago is where we are today. And I also agree with you that, Brian, you're the liaison. Congratulations. But whether or not the school committee or whomever your counterpart is or the district, whether they acknowledge that is yet to be determined.
So,
and they have to have a willingness. Now, you also have to remember, we tried both in a advisory committee meeting that you had with, you attempted to do it with the Warrant and Budget Subcommittee, but that got sidelined. And we also tried to do it with the Select Board, with our school committee reps. And not to put any color on it, the conversation basically, we tried to explain the constraints we had for revenue to Prop 2.5, our avenues for revenue or lack thereof. And basically, it boiled down to our 3 school committee reps said, no, well, the schools don't have a spending problem. The town of Bolton has a revenue problem in order to meet the needs of the school. And from my perspective, sort of dismiss the fact of the constraints we have to raise capital, and the fact that the assessments that were being handed exceed our ability to raise money over Prop 2.5. So from that perspective, I welcome, whatever we can do to try to break through that logjam, but I think we have a fundamental problem in that the school committee, and certainly at least the 3 Bolton reps that we have, think that we can magically find additional revenue to support whatever the school district needs to spend. So I think that to me seems to be a fundamental barrier in getting an understanding of what they need. And I understand that they have a lot of needs. They have the teachers, they have the contract, they have this, they have that. But there seems to have been a complete dismissal of the constraints we have as a town in order to provide the services that we need to provide to our constituents, and to service 60+% of our tax money to the schools to keep them going. So, I'm as frustrated as all of you guys are, because to your point, Bob, we're not getting anywhere.
well, let me just, I want to make sure that this is clear to you both. This goes to Bob's question about, like, it takes 2 to tango. After our last select board meeting, the current chair of the Budget and Warrant Subcommittee, who is Mike Horesh from Bolton, reached out and said, I'm officially stating that I would love to liaise with your board. Wasn't specific to me or anybody else, but so I think that I'm sure that the openness on that end is there. And so I think it's up to us to decide, whether we want to have somebody, but I do think that Mike is committed to that. I can't speak for all the other members, but I will also just say that in my experience, I have found folks to to try to be responsive. At least when I was on the advisory committee, didn't always get everything that I wanted, but I thought that I could work with them. So I just want to make that clear as well. I've had maybe a little bit of a different experience.
All right, well, that having been your experience with the school committee, I will move to appoint Brian as the liaison between the select board of Bolton and the financial community at Neshoba Regional School District.
I will happily second that.
Roll call. Stan,
Aye.
Brian,
Sure.
I am a yes also. Be
Sure.
careful what you wish for, Brian.
Yeah. Mr. Lowe, you've been awfully quiet. Do you have anything to comment on this whole discussion?
No, I don't believe I have anything to add to that. It's been a very thorough discussion, and I don't want to be the type of person that says everything that can be said has been said, but not everyone has said it yet. So I'll just sit here and follow. Thank you.
We'll call you Mr. Switzerland for the rest of the evening.
I've been called far worse.
All right. Any further discussion here?
No.
Okay. Next is an update on OPEB discussions within the school district. Mr. Wysocki is on the special committee that the school district has put together.
The very special committee. I'll make this very brief since we've been going very long. As you know, the town of Bolton's been funding the OPEB is the other post-employment benefits, which is primarily healthcare benefits for retirees and current folks. There's a whole big actuarial table that gets developed for the town of Bolton for current employees and retirees, and same thing goes for the district. At the moment, the district liability for OPEB is sitting around $47 to $48 million. And it's really not the district liability, it's the three towns liability. And this committee has been formed to try to address how to address this liability. The town of Bolton's been funding this for the last few years at what we call 100% of what our actuaries deem necessary to get to a zero number by a certain date, whether that's 2036 or it keeps moving. But whatever they tell us to fund it at, which is about $250,000 a year, we've been doing that to basically catch up. With a $48 million nut to have to catch up to, it's a little bit difficult to do that with the three towns. Right now, the actuaries for the district provided a 30-year table, which basically said over a 30-year period, basically the three towns would need to contribute a total of about $19 million over a 30-year period, which averages out to about $609,000 a year, of which Bolton's share would be about $194,000, $195,000 a year on top of everything else. We don't think that that's achievable at this point in time, given the potential of a new high school with the increase in taxes. So we're looking at some other strategies to potentially add money to this. Right now, the district has been funding it to the tune of $50,000 a year, which is wholly inadequate to meet the requirements. For the 30-year cycle, the first year we would need to fund roughly $915,000 for the three towns. So we're looking at some strategies to potentially gradually increasing the amount of money that's being added to the OPEB trust fund over some period of years, potentially 10, 20, or 30 years, And then seeing whether or not we can have some timeline to fully fund it. The interesting thing is if you are fully funding based upon an actuarial schedule, the money theoretically gains a higher interest rate than if you're not. The interest rate on fully funding on a yearly basis is roughly 7%. If you fund less than that, it's a much lower percentage rate, which means it takes a much longer time to achieve that. So right now, we've only had a couple of meetings. We have no clear strategy right now, but the bottom line is it's a big number. Whether we stretch it out to allow future generations to pay for that, and some for now, but it's very early on. But it is something that we do have to address, and something that the district has not addressed for a number of years, but we're looking to see whether or not we can work it into the annual assessments at some point. So that's all I have for the moment.
Thank you for the update. Can you remind me who else is on this working committee?
Don Cole is a Bolton resident. Don, who's the other gentleman? I forget his name from Bolton.
I actually don't remember.
Former administrator from Burlington. He was on.
Oh, John
Oh,
Petron?
John Petron.
John Petron, thank you. So the town of Bolton has 3 individuals on this committee. The town of Lancaster has 1 individual who is on their finance committee and no one else. Also, Mike Koresh is on this committee for the school committee. The town of Stowe has no representatives from the town other than the school committee member who was part of the subcommittee, Scott Powell. So once again, the committee is heavily slanted towards Bolton in terms of representatives. John Petron and Don Cole are great assets to this committee. It's been a pleasure working with both of them.
Great, thanks.
Okay, next up, approve bills and payroll warrants, W 24-05, W 24-05A, and W 24-4 supplemental WH. What's WH stand for? Anybody? No? Okay.
I'm gonna guess it's work hours or week hours, because that was related to the retirement of an employee.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, but that's my best guess.
Jenny and I
Okay.
concluded that it was work hours, but it was more anecdotal than factual.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second,
Roll call, Brian,
yes.
Stan?
Aye.
I'm a yes also. And next we have minutes. I believe the only minutes we have are from August 15th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Were there changes?
There were no changes.
Okay. So could I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 15th?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call, Stan?
Aye.
Brian?
aye.
I'm a yes also. Anything else we need to cover this evening? Okay, do I have a
Not on
motion
my
to
end.
adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Roll call, Brian?
aye.
Stan?
Aye.
I'm a yes also. All right,
you
thank you
Monday.
very much.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.
John, Jenny, good night.
Good night.
Oh,
Time for the
and you've got a coffee with the town administrator tomorrow.
Indeed, I do.
All right, have fun.
Thank you.
Aye.
time for the record is 8:39. I may have accidentally hit your unmute instead of my own. That's quite possible. You're welcome.